welcome to Unearthed. I am AZ.
And I'm Nicole, and today we are going to be talking about Unearthed and the history of the Paralympics today. So, AZ, my first two things that I'm going to do is two questions. So the first question is, in which year was the first official Paralympic Games held?
Ooh. You see, I don't even know when the first Olympics was, like the modern one. So this is a tough question. I'm going to guess 1960?
You're correct. Oh my goodness.
Oh, actually?
Yes.
Oh!
Yes, 1960,
Wow.
and it took place in Rome.
Wait,
and that was
actually?
yeah, no kidding. Yes.
Okay, that was a complete guess.
Yes, but it was called the International Stokes Medieval Games. Basically. So it wasn't actually called Paralympics then. And my second question is, which country has won the most medals in the Paralympic Games?
America?
Oh, of course, yes.
The only thing is because America wins everything.
Yeah, they've won a total of 2,175 medals so far.
Whoa.
Like, that is
That's crazy.
I know. My goodness.
My goodness.
Yes. So here in lockdown, well, in Aussie, we're in lockdown 2.0, right? So we have definitely been not being able to go out and experience fun and all that. So our form of entertainment has been going to the Tokyo Olympics and Paralympics of 2020. That has been our entertainment on the TV. So I don't know about you guys, but that's our entertainment over here.
Yep, every single night.
I know.
On the TV.
So the Paralympics movement has been a historic movement that has, well, basically we plan to uncover its history and why it's been so significant. And there's just a quote from Nelson Mandela that says, "Sport has the power to change the world. It has the power to inspire. It has the power to unite people in a way that little else does. It speaks to youth in a language that they understand. Sport can create hope where once there was only despair." And I think that is so true, particularly for this Paralympic movement, otherwise known as the International Paralympic Committee, IPC.
Wow.
You know?
IPC, I like that.
Yes.
IPC. You could create like a little jingle, man.
I could.
IPC.
So yeah, it's just like also their motto of being, well, just inspiring people and being like, this is the spirit in motion, being like, we are willing as Paralympians to like showcase how excellent and moving people here are and how this movement has just shaped. So let's get into it, shall we?
Yep. So I can start. So prior to the 1930s, like all disabled people were not allowed in the Olympics, which is very sad. Yeah,
they weren't like really treated well. Like they were definitely mocked and shocked. Like it was shocking towards a society and stuff like that. Abandoned by like their families and like just put out on the street. Like
when they like also like they're like homes specific to disabled people. Pretty sure it's called the midwife. Anyone else watch called midwife? They have like a home specifically just for like people with like disabilities and stuff.
I think they
which
do,
is quite sad because like then their families are like, no, I don't want you. You just go to home. Like,
no, they and experiments were done on them. And all that kind of stuff. Which was they were just deprived of their rights and their ability to do. They were ridiculed and all that. And even if you think about like the Bible stories, like people with leprosy were like put out on the street, cast out, and stuff, who cared about them, whatever. And so views of like today of people with disabilities has quite changed, especially in like the late 20th century.
It's very different.
Oh yeah, different
like, when you even watch movies or like hear stories, very different.
Yeah, very, very different. But there is still like, even today though, there is still a bit of like, I feel like people
treating them differently.
Yeah, treat them differently.
Maybe
sometimes.
not intentionally, but like
there's still that sometimes, but it's definitely different. Perspective of people with disability has definitely changed, which is good. Actually, in 1975, the UN declared the rights of disability people, so they actually got rights and stuff like that. So it definitely has changed.
So like voting and stuff like that.
Yeah, or just considered people that needed to be cared for, basically. You know, and out there. And also, like, of course, medical advances have helped people with disabilities as well, being able to live longer and being able to participate in society, whereas previously they just weren't.
True, like even if you
allowed
think
to.
about like they make like wheelchair ramps in like shopping centers or
just anywhere
like,
in homes
yeah,
and stuff like
anywhere.
that, you know. So it's like it has definitely improved over the century, and but this is more in terms of, you're talking about like developed countries and stuff like that. So people like in non-developed countries or do not have medical care sometimes do struggle if they do have disability more so than people who are in developed countries, like here in Australia, then
who more have like the resources.
Have the resources to be able to do it.
Very
so
true.
yes, what we are gonna do is basically talk about Guttmann, or Sir Guttmann. Yeah, Guttmann.
Guttmann!
And the Paralympic movement, basically.
Okay.
So, Guttmann, he was born, well, he was a Jewish, German-born, well, yes. Right?
Jewish, German-born man.
Yes, we'll go with that, right?
I was trying to think of how you say that.
Yes. So he was Jewish, and he was born in Germany, and he was basically a neurosurgeon. So, like very good in terms of the medical degree and stuff
Just
like
think
that.
about that. If you're a neurosurgeon, man, like did you do operations on people?
I'm assuming so.
Like, can you imagine just like cutting into someone's head? Like, oh, that's creepy. Like, don't you think you would like accidentally kill them? Like,
you might do.
I feel like I'd be so scared. And you know the movie Doctor Strange?
Yes.
Like the guy, he couldn't do his surgery because his hands were like all shaky after his accident. Do you remember?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, because like his hand, you have to be so still to like
do stuff,
pull stuff out.
But I'm sure he's fine.
But
I'm sure Guttmann is fine.
Yes. Crazy.
But basically, Guttmann, well, because of the rise of the Nazi power in Germany, because of World War One World War Two, not World War One.
Wrong one.
History right.
Yeah.
So he left in 1939 to go to England because, of course, he was Jewish, and in Germany, Jewish people just very horrible things happened to them. Because of it.
So he escaped.
Yeah, so he escaped. He fled, and he came to England, basically. And towards the end of the war, it was like 1945, 1944 actually. And he became the head of the National Injuries Centre at Stoke Mandeville Hospital, and it's somewhere in England. I don't know.
Who knows where?
Yeah,
where's it? Do you reckon Stoke or Mandeville is the place?
No, Stoke Mandeville is the hospital. Stoke Mandeville.
Oh,
Hospital.
how do you say that? Aylesbury.
Aylesbury. Yeah,
Aylesbury. Anyone know where Aylesbury is? I don't. I'll search it up after this because I'm curious.
Yeah, so he was asked by the British government basically to do this National Spinal Injuries Centre, and he was there until he basically retired in 1966, which is
how many years is that? It's
time.
like 20 years. Is my math correct? I don't know.
I don't know. I can't be able to work it out. 1944 to 1966. That's a long time though.
That's 22 years.
Yeah, so
there you go. My math's on point. Let's go.
And basically in his when he was doing or being the head of this spinal injury center, his main thing was championing the concept of using physical activity in treating people with spinal injuries. So they couldn't use basically their lower bodies, but they could still use their upper bodies, I would say. And
so they could still do like sport and stuff.
Yeah, so they could like do javelin, or they could throw and you know, like use their arms.
I feel like that you must have really strong arms then to do javelin. Like imagine sitting here and having to like just throw it with no momentum. Like that's crazy.
It is crazy. So he basically was promoting this, especially for servicemen, since like with World War II, a lot of servicemen would come back and they would basically just not have function of like their legs, or they would have spinal injuries and stuff. And so he was like, well, sport is a way that they can get physical activity, basically, but it will also promote more interconnection, willing to participate in society, and motivation, mental well-being. So it just helped all the rehabilitation to get them back out, because they just were kept basically in beds. And he came and changed that whole idea of just keeping them in beds and trying to make them comfortable, if that makes sense. Actually trying to get them back up and moving and stuff like that.
I feel like they'd also be like scared to go back into society. because like they'll be scared of what people think.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
it's good though, because I feel like probably because of this, like they're literally in society, no one like.
Yeah. So he basically believed that sport was able to change lives, and it totally has. So there's actually a movie called The Best of Men, which I actually highly recommend that anyone watch, because it is incredible, because it just basically shows a movie about Guttmann's life and how he came to this hospital and he just changed thinking of how to treat people with disabilities or with spinal cord injury specifically. And it goes on to show that he basically formed what was known now as the Stoic Manville Games, basically.
Stoic Manville Games.
Yes. So in 1944, he basically organised this sports competition for British World War II veterans to compete in with spinal cord injuries at the Stoic Manville Hospital. And it basically actually coincided with the Olympic Games that were held in London in 1948.
Oh, the same
Olympics.
year.
Yeah, but they weren't associated with each other. Like they weren't run by the same person. So it was separate events.
Do you reckon that was like on purpose?
Possibly. It probably was a bit on purpose. Do you know what I mean? Like, of course. But this particular games is actually known as the precursor to basically the Paralympic movement and the Paralympic Games, and in terms of moving it towards that.
That's kind of cool.
Where it all started.
That's very cool. In a tiny little hospital in England. And now look at us, we've got the Paralympics.
Yes.
So good.
So that's a bit about him and like how he started the Stoic International Stoic Manville Games basically. These games were actually held again in 1952, so basically like 4 years later from the...
So same as the Olympics.
Yeah, same as the Olympics, basically. But this time in 1952, the games were actually open to British and Dutch veterans. So it actually became the first international competition of its kind, which is really cool.
I mean, even though it's like only like 2 countries.
Yeah, two countries. Right? But for people with disabilities,
that's
to
crazy.
Have this competition that is
technically international now.
Because you've got because it's international, because you've got 2 countries there. Is incredible, especially because this hadn't been seen before, really, to have people with disabilities or specifically spinal cord injuries being able to compete in sports or international sports. They were kind of hidden from society, and now they've been brought into the light.
Very cool.
And it was a very monumentous moment.
Yeah, because then it just would have expanded and expanded. Like
it did. It literally kept growing over the next few years. That actually the international community and the International Olympics Committee, so the IOC, basically was so impressed with Guttmann's work of these games at the hospital that they actually basically awarded his contributions, and basically were very invested in then the games to make it a Paralympics, to make it what it is, the Paralympics. And because of their Olympic ideals of sports can change the world, basically.
Fun fact.
Yeah.
I found this the other day. All the 5 Olympic rings, all of those colours, at least one of them is in every single country's flag. That's part
no way.
Yeah, I was like, that's cool. That's very, very cool.
That is awesome, man.
Yeah.
Right. So these Stoic games basically began to be quite grow and become widely known. Particularly by the 1960, when basically
I guessed it right. That really was a guess. I'm not even kidding.
Yes. So basically in 1960, it was the first time the Stoic Manville Games went overseas, internationally, basically. So before it was always...
Where's the country called? No,
England.
The town? The weird name, the one with the 8.
I don't know what its name is.
Me either, but it was there.
It was there.
And now it's...
And then it was international. So it went to Rome. And Rome... Yes, because Rome actually was held in 1960, there was the Rome Olympic Games.
Okay.
And actually, the Stoic Manville Games went in after the games were held there, to hold their own games as well, basically.
Was that the same time, or was it like now? It's like 2 weeks. Is it 2 weeks later?
I think it's 2 weeks, or something like that. I think it was held closely together, but the only thing is with that, I think even though they were there, like their disabilities, well, it couldn't allow them to get up and down like stairs and stuff like that. So the facilities weren't quite the best for them, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Or in terms of how they could move around, so they needed a bit of help as well.
I've just seen this. There were 400 athletes from 33 countries that went to that games, like the Paralympic Games,
which is insane, you know.
Yeah.
And like 23 countries, like that is pretty incredible, you know. And like these were basically, like, although it was known kind of still as the Stoic Manville Games, it is actually more likely, like, people consider it as the first official Paralympic Games.
Yeah,
basically.
yeah. Probably because it's more international and more people would have known about
definitely.
it.
Yeah.
And you
know. And although these like 1960 games led to improvements, there was definitely like setbacks in terms of facilities that were available and stuff. So there was still like some hurdles to get over and stuff like that. But these games definitely began to like modernize and like become like grow and allow more disabilities, because actually in those previous games, the only disabilities that were actually included in the Paralympic Games were people with spinal cord injuries. So people like with
so no one else could like I didn't realize that. Okay, so now any disability.
Yeah, so from basically the 1960, it began to grow in terms of allowing more people with disabilities to partake in these games. Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Would you count like people wearing glasses as a disability? Because technically it is. Do you know what I'm saying?
No,
like,
okay, so last night I was talking with my father, and he was actually saying that so if you want to be considered a disability with eyes, so you have to put your glasses on and still have very bad like vision. Basically, you can't see. So if you
with glasses.
Yeah.
Even so the point of glasses is to be able to see.
Yeah, so if you put glasses on and you have 20/20 vision, you're not considered to be able to take part in Paralympic Games.
So you basically have to be blind.
You have to be blind.
Is that what it's saying?
Sort of, yes. But with basically, you have to basically put glasses on, and you still.
And like the strongest power, they can't.
Yeah, it still doesn't help you see, basically.
Okay, I was wondering that. I was like,
because
technically it is a disability because if you don't have glasses on, you can't see.
Yes.
I always wondered that, but again, that makes sense. I understand.
A little fact for you.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, so the games began to incorporate like adding other like cerebral palsy was added in I think it was 1980.
Yep.
And then other events like the Paralympic Winter Games was added in 1976, which was pretty cool. So that was added
a few years after.
But yes. And then, of course, the original governing body of the Paralympics was formed in 1982, and it wasn't called the International Paralympic Committee. It was called the International Coordination Committee of World Sports Organizations for the Disabled.
That's a long
title, man.
I'm glad they changed that to a shorter title.
Yes.
Ain't nobody saying that. I didn't remember half of it already.
Well. And the current president of the IPC, so the International Paralympic Committee, is Andrew Parsons, and he's a Brazilian, basically. So he's from 2017 till current now, and he was vice president
before that. Okay.
Yes, I think from 2013 to 2017, he was the vice president when another person was there. Oh, yes.
That's so cool.
Yeah. But yeah, despite all these improvements though, the Paralympics actually wasn't considered equal to the Olympics, and that was because although they were like, they weren't actually held at the same time or the same place. So the only time that they were held at the same place was in 1960 in Rome. But then
Oh.
after that, the couple Olympics after that weren't actually held in the same place as the Olympics. And what happened is that the IPC began to basically petition and lobby governments and all this kind of stuff to make it equal to the Paralympics, so that if you wanted to host the Olympics, the Paralympics also had to be hosted as well and stuff like that.
That's good though.
Oh, and in 1988, they basically had a breakthrough, and the Seoul I think that's how you say it, Seoul 1988 Games was the first games where the Paralympics and Olympic Games were held at the same venue. Like,
oh, so even before then they were separate. So
Yeah,
what
so
did they do? The country built two different. Oh wait, weren't even in the same place.
Yeah, they probably had other facilities. I don't know, but the facilities that they used weren't the actual ones that the Olympic athletes could use. So in 1980 was the first time they could, and it was like they had well constructed facilities that I could use. And so ever since this time they've been held at the same place at the same time. And in 2001. There was if you want to host as a country, you have to also host the Paralympics. So if you want to bid to host the Olympics, you have to also bid to host the Paralympics. So you can't have one or the other.
I never realized you have to bid to host the Olympics.
Yeah, you have to.
Isn't that so weird?
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense because how else will they choose?
Because you've got to do that.
Let's go Australia.
Yeah, we were
2000 and when is it? I've already forgotten.
24, I think it is. I think we're 2024 in Brisbane.
2024 is 3 years away.
Maybe not.
I thought
Maybe it's 2060. So 2026.
No.
4.
It's 2036. Is it?
I don't know. Who knows?
Who knows? We don't know. But
we don't even know. We live here.
we won the bid, and I'm excited because surely I think it's in 10 years or something, or just over 10 years, because I think I worked it out that I'll be just below 30. I think just below 30 or 40. I can't remember.
I think
which
it's 2028 because it's after 2024.
I have no idea, but anyway, I worked it out and I was like, I'm going. So catch me on the Olympics whenever it is in Australia. I will be going. Yes.
So what do you think is, my question for you is, what do you think is the most successful Paralympic Games in history?
You know what I'm going to say? I'm going to say this year. But although it's only just started, right? This week.
Oh, yeah, it has only just started.
But I feel like this year, because the reason being, especially in Australia, everyone's in lockdown. We have nothing to watch. So everyone's going to be watching it more, I feel, than they would previously.
No,
I feel like that's the wrong answer. But that's just my thoughts right now.
Well, actually, I would say that the most successful Paralympic Games that has been held is the London 2012 Paralympic Games. And the reason why I say that is because there was 4,237 athletes from 64 countries. 2.78 million spectators went and literally packed the venues. Wow. And that was nearly 1 million more than the Beijing Paralympics. 1 million more. The year, 4 years before that. Yeah. And then they had 3.8 billion views of watching on TV. From 115 countries. Wow. Which was basically a 37% growth increase from what was recorded for Beijing of watching worldwide, which is incredible, you know. And also the reason why I wouldn't say Rio, although Rio was that was also a successful one, they are more considered in terms of ticket sales, they didn't quite sell as many as London did in 2012. And so
would you think that's because more people in London would be more interested, or?
I don't know. I don't think so. I just think it's the way that the games were held in London really did push for a movement of let's support these Paralympic athletes.
Yeah.
And so I think So we have basically got to then Tokyo 2020 and
right now.
right
Are you
now.
watching?
But of course, because of COVID-19, people can't view, or there's no spectators,
Yeah.
basically, which is
It's
kind
so
of sad.
Just think about it, they just built all these like facilities and stuff, and no one can go watch it. Well, I mean, like the other athletes can go watch, but not the same.
Yeah, definitely not the same.
It's very
It's
sad.
kind of sad, you know.
Mm.
Like, can't go out, can't go and see what's happening. But what are you most excited for, do you think, with watching the Paralympic Games? Like, what sport event was up?
It's gonna sound weird. I don't even know if they do this in Paralympics, but rock climbing or sport climbing, as it's called. Do they do that?
I'm not sure. I don't think they do that.
Oh, okay, then ignore that.
They might not be able to do that. I don't think so.
I know, that's why I'm like, I'd have to research, see if they do have it, because that was
I'm actually
cool.
looking forward to some of like the running. Do you know that?
Oh, the running
like
will
that'd
be
be
good.
cool. I was watching some swimming last night.
Yeah.
And just like incredible people. Like, it was actually one guy, I don't know what stroke he was doing. Oh no, backstroke I think he was doing. I think it was like 100 meters.
Mhm.
And he won the gold. And his time actually was a few seconds off the person who won bronze in the Olympic Games for the same event. Like, isn't that impressive, man?
So he also beat all the other people as well. He's
Yes.
in like the previous games.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, that's so cool.
So that's crazy that
yeah.
he could have, if he wasn't someone with a disability, he could have nearly snagged the bronze medal of the Olympic Games.
Yeah, he always could have.
Yeah.
That's
It's
really
cool.
cool to think.
So we hope that you out there are excited and watching,
And are
the
watching.
Paralympic
Let us know
Games.
what your favorite.
Yeah, what are your favorite
sports?
like, or what are you most excited to watch?
Yep.
What teams are you going for? Who are you going for?
What country you rooting for?
Yeah.
Hopefully your own. We're going for Australia.
Yeah. Go Aussie.
Let's go.
You know? Up the Aussies.
Yep.
As they say. So here we have talked and unpacked that sport has the power to change the world, and I truly believe that is the case, specifically with this Paralympic movement, which is amazing. So that
it's cool. It's also changed their lives as well. Because
Yeah.
I feel like not just with sport, but also in like their everyday life, it's like changed because of this.
Yeah.
Because people are like, oh, we're not just gonna leave them in beds to sit there for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
They're actually now into our communities. They're like, you know, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. So please like,
Subscribe,
download,
and tell all your friends.
This has been Unearthed with AZ and Nicole. See you next time.